here to officiate at the switch on of the Horncastle Tree of Light for Christmas 2020. And I'm delighted to say that in spite of the wintry weather, we're being joined by Phil Walter, who's president of the Horncastle Lions, and by the Mayor of Horncastle, Councillor Fiona Martin, who in a few moments is going to activate our absolutely splendid new lights on the tree. Sadly, we're having to socially distance and abide by the COVID rules, so it means we don't have our usual audience of friends, family and fellow committee members. Hence we're looking to record this little ceremony, and we hope to put it on the website in the next day or so. But on behalf of the organising team, I would like to say a very big thank you to all those people and organisations whose efforts make this possible each year. But especially, I want to recognise this year, I want to acknowledge the tremendous support we've had from the people of Horncastle and surrounding area, the donors who've been looking to remember their loved ones. And it's especially poignant at a time when we're suffering from this quite awful pandemic. But what it means, of course, is that our very hard-pressed local hospices are going to benefit enormously from this generosity. Now, we should be reading out the tribute names in a customary way. But I have to say that one or two of the latecomers, unfortunately, will be missed off our tribute list here at the foot of the tree. But now I'm going to ask the Mayor to authorise the switch on, and a regal swing of the arm would be quite sufficient. Thank you, Fiona. Bravo.
So the names on our tribute list for 2020 are as follows: Dorothy Scott, James Arthur Vickers, Gordon Spittlehouse, Daphne Spittlehouse, Bruce Duckworth, Gladys Newsted, Margaret Rose Johnson, Christopher George Spencer, Angela Andy Kisby, Elaine Chantry, Dawn Collin, Harry and Edna Ely, Lindsay Marie Burgess, Francis and Jim Knight, Frederick Samuel and Edith Smith, Abigail Sutton, Pauline Guttridge, Sheila Stanton, John Waterfall, Jean Gibbons, Grace Georgina Rosen, Derek Arthur Rosen, Ed Hall, John Scrubbers, Barbara Pitt and Gladys Irene Tremere,
Douglas Holdaway, Betty Holdaway, John Franklin Shaw, Shirley Wood, Michael Toyd, John Toyd, Christine Chester, Gordon Newsham, Harold Chadwick, Robin Martin, Fred Walters, Liz Walters, Steve Diamond, Eric Gordon Whitaker, Ken Spencer, Karen Freeman, Edith and Thomas McLaughlin, Leonard and Vera Perkins, Tom Clayton, Jean Clayton, Carl Smith, William Mayer, Nita Longden, Marilyn Howsam, Pauline Ann Holford, Harold Mac Maskell, Audrey Maskell, Jock Bruce Gardine, Colin Senior, Sylvia Morby, Gordon J, Barry Bushell,
Iris Cross, Mary Leggett, Carol Lovely, Faye Stanley, Mick Hodson, Maisie Elvin, Robert Blackburn, Doris E. Keeling and David W. Keeling, Edna Barber, Joe Fish Collier, Dorothy and Dennis Cooper, Leslie Lawrence Toynton, Bill Fielder, Michael William Hubbard, Peter Rowland, Christine Ann Lenton, Frank Cross, Francis Belton, John Palin, Michael Palin, Mark Haywood, William and Winifred Stitt, Norman Stitt, Peg Pickering, Mary Finch, Kathy Israel, Mr. and Mrs. J. Palin, Tricia Greenwood, Edna Gowing and Keith Gowing.
Gemma Louise Weaver, Kimberly Amber Tilbury, James Jim Jones, Ab Smith, Stanley Burnett, Doris Evelyn Burnett, Roy Burnett, Archie Edward Burnett, Hazel Patricia Jones, Timothy William Stebbings, Dave Bell, Ian Neil Clark, Ron Clark, Graham Martin, Eileen Mayer, Eric Redshaw, June Marie Smith, Ben Smith, Mr. and Mrs. W. Lancaster, Sheila Ward, Albert Humphrey, Cicely Humphrey, David White, Paul White, Walter and Olive Holmes, Ronald Brooks, Eileen Joan Brooks, Bert Scott, Doreen Brooks,
Terence Kelly, Barbara Morris, Frank Griffin, James Bracey, Ian Cuthbert, Eileen MacLeod, David Raitt, Jack Chamberlain, Janet Gibson, Pat Brown, Mary Staton, Julie and David Williams, Elsie Mae Crow, Baby Liam Greenfield, David Russell Kirk, Alan Saunders, Rotarian Angus Carmichael, Fred and Ivy Walker, Edward Bell, Ruby and Tom Caton, Ada and Les Close, Ron and Marguerite Paul, Kenneth Kelsey, Donald Kelsey, Janet Kelsey, Derek Kelsey, Rafe and Emma Kelsey, Doreen and Edwin Spitt, Peter James Oliver and John Bennett.
Jeffrey Brown, Harry Cooksey, David Bancroft, Bruce Bell, David Stewart, Dean Mitchell, Sheila Moore, Gladys May Firth, Edna Barbara Firth, Diane Swift, Chris Swift, John and Pam Corby, Peter Dowles, Gladys Martin, Mavis Sargent, Reg Sargent, Philip and Sissy Church, Jimmy and Ruby Walker, Dave Bell, Peggy Willis, Bernard Willis, David MacDonald, Dorothy Mae Tucker, Olive and Jack Holmes, Roy Parsons, Joan Pugh, Fred and Molly Graddle, Alex Graddle, Pen Holdaway Willett, Bill Clift,
Cyril Skaman, Dennis Stedman, Iris Benton, Terry Day, Derek Taylor Lee, Sylvia and Cyril Watts, Eric Hall, John Ravenhall, Joyce Boundy, Colin Knott, Jim Portus, James Prochnick, Wilf and Lillian Yates, Ken and Olive Peacock,
Michael Wallace, Tricia Utley and Joan Utley, Christopher Pamley Joe, Adrienne Ann Bark, Natalie Christina Bark, Ted and Vera Hudson, Mr. R. Towler, Mrs. K.A. Towler, Neville Stewart, Jenny Stewart, Terry Smith, Jack and Jill Gosling, Willie Mayer, Terry Monaghan, Barry Waite, Derek Wemby and Ian Oates, Elaine Chantry, Gordon Darley, Andy Clayton, Mr. and Mrs. R.A.P. Barker, Lucy Danby, Barbara Guthrie, Mum and Dad Silverton, Brian Palin, Mo and Shirley Wilkinson, Michael Burton, Harold Kitson, Kathleen Kitson, Michael Beer,
Doreen Fidling and Nigel Fidling, Debbie Ward, Robert Kitching and Graham Kitching, Karina Maitland, Kim Knight, William Bill Gray, Sheila Gray, John Brown, Carol Joy Speed, Alan Toon, Charles Hall and Joyce Hall, Stephen Henrik Ehrentraut, Winifred Ehrentraut, John Todd, Leah Carter, Albert Espin, Joan Espin, Pam and Vic Wilkinson, David Mackay, Daniel Kirk and Vera Kirk, Jack and Kathleen Hyatt, Sydney and Sue Buxton, Roy Flitton, John Atkis and May Atkis, Cyril Myrams and Florence Myrams,
Judith Cummings, Alan Reynolds, June and Edwin Maltby, Stephen Vamplew, George W. Button, Lucy Roberts, Margaret Eileen Martin, Emma Louise Barley, Albert Henry Martin, Mark Russell, Stanley Bowles, Mavis Mowbray, Derek Myers, Jude Myers, Fred Panton, Betty Panton, 6 volunteers from the St Barnabas shop, Gordon Baslow, Diane Watson, Sydney Danby, Dorothy Danby, Irene Mary Woods, John and Pauline Beattie, Cecil Henry Maltby, John Collins, Anthony and Emily Abanovich, Esther Thompson, George Bullen, Joy and Edward Lee Cottingham, Terry Oakley, Francis and Fred Bennett, Frank Gunning, Mary Gunning, the Schofield family, Claire Birchall, and all the Birchall family.
Terry Oakley and Joy and Edward Lee Cottingham. That concludes our tribute list for 2020. We just spend a small time of silence as we remember those whom we have known and loved and with whom we've spent significant parts of our lives. May they rest in peace.